every grid set can be edited in the same way. So just to reassure you that these sessions are designed for absolute beginners, so we're not assuming any prior knowledge at all of editing in Grid, so hopefully we're going to explain everything that you need to know as we go along. So I'm just going to switch screens now so that you can see my iPad. And what we are going to do in this session is, as I said, we're going to create a brand new grid set and we're going to call it Drink. So these are the existing grid sets that I have within Grid Explorer. So Grid Explorer is like my home screen, if you like, where I can launch different grid sets. And these are the ones that I've already added in. But if I want to add a brand new grid set or add any grid set at all, in fact, what I would need to do is click on the three dots in the top right, and that is going to bring up a menu. And then I will go to add grid set. And here we have several options. You can install one of our pre-made resources, which is split into these 4 different categories here. So if you were looking for Supercore, for example, you'd find that under symbol communication. Text Talker would be under text communication, obviously. But what I'm going to do is scroll a little bit, and you can see also that you have the option to add grid sets from online grids. That's our online resource where people can upload grid sets that they've made, and Smartbox also upload resources onto there. And there's loads of good stuff that you can download from there. So I'd encourage you to explore that. But what we're going to do in this session is create a brand new blank grid set. So I'll select blank grid set there. Okay, and the first thing it's asking me to do is give the new grid set a name. So I'm going to just call it drinks. Okay, and then if ever the keyboard's getting in the way, or you're done with it, you can just click on the hide keyboard cell in the bottom corner. So we have a title, have the language, this one's in English UK. What we're going to do now is set the number of rows and columns that we want this grid set to be. Now you can modify this later, and we will show you that later in this particular session, but we're going to start off with 6 columns and 3 rows. So the default is 6 columns, but for rows I'm going to click on that row, tap on that row, and then select 3, and then go back. So just hide the keyboard again there. So we've got 6 by 3, and we can also give this grid set tile a symbol just by clicking on picture and change picture. And there's various options here, but what we want in this case is a symbol. And it's suggesting some symbols based on the name of the grid set. So I'm going to choose the widget symbol for drink there. Okay. And then the last thing that we do at this stage is we can change the color of this grid set tile here. And we do that by clicking on the current color in this little box underneath. And then I can choose a bit brighter color, maybe, a bit more cheery. So that's the basics of doing the initial creation of the grid set. So now I'll select done. Okay. So now I'm going to go into the grid set, and we'll see that we just get a little message that says this grid has nothing in it, why not edit it and create some cells? So that's our prompt to add some content into this. So the way that you always make any changes in Grid for iPad is you'll go from this mode, which if there were any cells here would display the cells and you could use them to speak and so on. But if you want to make changes to the grid set, you need to change modes into edit mode. And that again is by the three dots for menu. And then this time we're going to go to edit grids. And you're going to see the appearance of the page changes. And you can always tell in the app if you're in editing mode very quickly because you get this orange bar across the top. So we're going to add some drinks that we could ask for or talk about first of all. Now in this particular grid we're going to leave this column on the right blank. That's going to come in handy for our second session next week for some things we're going to add in there. So I'm going to start one column across, and first of all I just need to tap on the cell that I want to work on, like so. And the Create Cell menu will appear if it's a blank cell. If there was something already there, then we could have gone on to edit the cell. But because this is blank, we've got the Create Cell menu. And all the cells we're going to be making in this first part are write and speak cells, because these are vocabulary cells that are going to send text to the chat writing area or speak them out loud if there is no chat writing area. So they're write and speak cells. So because that's the most common of the options, it's right at the top of the list. So we'll tap on that. And the view then changes, and there's a cursor blinking in the cell now. And that's ready for me to type in the label of the cell. So this first one is going to be the most important drink to ask for, which of course is coffee. And you'll see that as I type, a symbol will be suggested that matches the label. That's not always the symbol that you want, and if you want a different one, you can just click on the symbol, and we'll do that later, and you can see other choices. But we'll go with the default one here. So I'm done with typing in the label there, and we've created that cell. So it's as quick as that, and we've got our first cell made. So we're going to make a bunch of these. The next one is going to be, again, the same type of cell, write and speak. This time it's a cappuccino. Let's hope I get the spelling correct. Yep, must be right because the symbol got suggested. And we're done with that one. And underneath that, we're going to add tea. Okay, so as quick as that, we've got 3 cells made. And then we're going to move over to the next column. And again, it's a write and speak cell. Now this one's going to be hot chocolate. So just watch what happens as I type the label. First of all, we get the symbol for hot because that's all we've typed so far. But if we keep going, then we get the right symbol suggested. And we're going to do latte. And loose tea. Okay. And you can see next to the done button, there is an undo as well. So if you've if you've made a bit of a mistake, you can always undo and jump back a step at a time using that button. Okay, so we've got 6 cells created here. Now, what if we wanted to move these cells around and change the order a little bit? That's really quick and easy to do. So let's say I want to swap the location of loose T and T. So if I select one of those cells, just by tapping and holding, and then I can just drag that across. In fact, I held for a bit too long there, and what's come up here with these tick boxes is how you select multiple cells all at once, and I'll show you that again in just a moment. But that didn't stop me from moving the cell. So you just tap and drag to move things around. I'm going to show you how to resize a cell in a couple of minutes as well. So we're done with that stage there. Next to T, the last drink I'm going to add is another important one, espresso. And there we have that. So I'm going to select done. And I'm just going to test out these cells now for a second. So if I want to actually see whether these cells are working or not, just clicking on them in edit mode is not going to do that, because that gives me the option then to edit that cell. What I need to do to test them out is to tap on finish editing. That's going to take me out of edit mode, and I can then tap on these cells. Now you might only hear this very quietly because it's just going to pick up on my microphone the sound from the iPad, but let's give it a go.
Hot chocolate. Espresso.
Okay, so they're speaking as expected. So that's all fine, but so far we've just got some very specific vocabulary, but we've got no core words to go alongside them, so our grid is quite limited at the moment. So we're going to add in some pronouns and some verbs. So to do that, we want to go back into edit mode. And so it's the 3 dots for the menu and then edit grids. And I'm just going to go over to the left-hand column, start at the top, and I'm going to add the first pronoun, which is I. So if ever the symbol you're looking for isn't suggested straight away, you can just tap on the symbol area here, and then you will usually find something suitable from these suggested ones here. But you can go further. You can go to find picture, and you can tweak the search terms to search the symbol database and so on. But for now, that one's going to be just fine for us. And I'm going to put U underneath there. And it underneath that. And again, tap on there and then select the symbol that you want. Okay, so we've got some pronouns. Now let's add in some verbs. So in this column, I'm going to add want, stop, and like. And then in these two remaining spaces here, I'm going to add good and more, which could be useful words for this particular grid. Okay. So now we've got the vocabulary to create a more complete sentence. However, something quite important is still missing, and that is a way to build up a sentence. So currently this grid would only let you say these individual words in the order that you press the cells. And what we need is what we call a chat writing area, which is a cell which enables you to compose a sentence before you speak it. And so we're going to add that in. However, we don't have the space to do that. And quite more often than not, the chat writing area is in a row above the vocabulary. And we don't have any blank space. So we need to add a row of cells. So note the icons on the menu bar here in edit mode. The ones we're looking at are the ones over in the corner here. And the one right next to the three dots for the menu is the grid icon. If I select that, then you'll see you get some choices here that are kind of similar to how you would add rows and columns to a table in Microsoft Word or in Excel or something like that. So if you're familiar with uh, those pieces of software, you're probably familiar with this process. So what we need to do is select a cell next to the row that we want to insert. So that wasn't a very good choice. And then I'm going to select insert row above. Okay. And so now we've got a blank row, we've got room for our chat writing area. So I'm going to select an empty cell in this new row. And I've got these same three choices, write and speak, play a recording, or jump to another grid. However, underneath that, there is a show more option. So this time I'm going to need to select that. And then there are loads and loads of commands which are available in Grid for iPad. And they're split into different categories. So it jumped actually into the chat and writing area category because I'd been using that previously. But these are the different categories of commands that are available. So if you want to add a cell that does something other than write and speak, you'd find it under one of these categories. You can browse through the categories, or you can search directly for the command that you want. In this case, I'm going to navigate into chat and writing, and then I'm going to scroll down the list past all the red commands down to the first one in the chat section, and that's called the chat writing area. If I want to verify that this is the one that I was after, I can click on the info, and that's going to just give me a little description of what this command is going to do. So the chat writing area is for composing messages to speak aloud. And so this is exactly what I wanted. So now I can select add from here. So I've got a chat writing area now. However, it's probably not big enough. So to resize a cell, you'll see when the cell is selected, you get four handles, one in each corner. And you can just tap and hold on one of the handles and then drag to resize like so. So now we have our chat writing area. We have our vocabulary. Let's say I've come back to it and I've realized that actually the coffee cell, it doesn't really describe how I like my coffee. So I want to go in and edit that one because I want it to describe the kind of coffee I like a bit more fully. So if I select that cell by tapping on it and then go to edit cell, you'll see that there's a toggle switch here that says same as cell label. Now what I want to do with this cell is I want it to say black coffee extra strong. Okay, now that is probably too much text to put on the label here. On the label, it's probably enough for it to just say coffee, because I know how I want my coffee anyway. But when I want it to speak, I want it to put that whole text in there. Now, if I toggle same as cell label to off, that means now that the cell can say something different to what is on the label. And so I want to type in black coffee extra strong. I can type it straight into this box here, but it's kind of a bit small. It's easier if you tap on advanced edit and then it brings it up in a bigger box. So black coffee extra strong. And you can see you get suggested symbols for each word. And you can choose a different one if you want to. I'm going to go with the suggested ones here. And then I'll select done. Okay, so you can see now the label still says coffee, but the text it's going to speak or put in the chat writing area is the full sentence. Okay, so the last thing we're going to look at in this first session is how to change the appearance of the cells. So we're going to look at changing the colour primarily, but you can change other aspects such as the text size and the background colour, the border colour, and the shape of the cell and so on. So if I just select done, because I'm finished with that particular cell for now, and I'm going to select I, and then here at the top, we were on the grid icon. We're going to select the paintbrush next to it, which is related to style and appearance. And you can see there's a whole load of stuff you can change here. I want to change the fill color at this moment in time, and I'm going to make that a pale yellow. Now you can go through every cell in the grid and change them individually. Sometimes that might be what you want to do. But grid helps you to speed up the whole thing by using something called styles. And that enables you to group together cells that you want to look the same and change them all en masse. So all the cells we've created so far are using the style called vocab cell. Now I want to create a new style at this point called pronouns. So if I tap on vocab cell, that's the current one, this will show me the other styles that are available in this grid set. But I can also add one of my own by tapping on the plus. And I'll delete the suggestion there, and I'm just going to call it pronoun. Okay, so now that style's available in the list, and we can select another cell, like you, and then again, click on vocab to give you the list and change that to pronoun. Same with it, like so. And we're going to do a similar thing for verbs now. And we're going to make them green. So first of all, with the first one, I'll change the fill color. And again, I'm going to create a new style with the plus. Call it a verb. Right, now I want to select stop and like because I want to change those both into verb, the verb style. So if you remember to select multiple cells, you tap and hold on the first one until you see the tick appear in the corner. And now we're in the multiple selection mode. So now I can select on like as well. I've got those two both selected, both with the ticks. I can go to vocab cell, choose verb, and they will both change to the verb style. Okay, now I could change good and more to a different style as well. I'm going to leave, for the sake of time, I'm going to leave those two. And I am going to change our vocab. I'm going to create a style for that. And so I'm going to select all of these. So again, tap and hold. Then I can just do a quick tap on each to select all of these. I'll change them all at once. And we'll change them to lilac. And we'll define a new style. Let's call it nouns. Okay. Now let's say that I'd done all of that and then I come back to it. I'm not really too sure about this lilac colour and I'll try a different colour. Now that I've got these all defined in the same style, I can select any one of them. I can change the fill colour or any of the other visual aspects. Let's try orange. And you'll see now that I have an option that says update style. And that will make the change that I've just made here to this one cell to every cell that uses the noun style, whether they're on this grid or on other grids within this grid set. We've only got one so far, but by this time next week we'll have more than one. So if I do update style, you'll see that they will all change as the style's updated. Okay. When I'm done, I can just tap on finish editing and then
I
just give that a little test.
want
Let's test out that coffee one.
black coffee extra strong.
There we go. Okay, so this grid set is this particular grid is only partly done. There's a few more functions we need to add to it, but that's as far as we're going to take it in this first session today. So just to recap, we've looked at how to create a new grid set, how to create write cells, and how to add a chat writing area, how to move and resize cells, how to add a row, and how to modify cell appearance using styles. So after this session, what I'd recommend is that you have a try at recreating this grid yourself and follow on the video if you want to and pause it as many times as you need to, because with this skill of creating grid sets, the best way to get good at it is to practice it and try it out. So I'd encourage you to do that. If you've got any questions, we're going to answer questions which you can put in the chat writing in the chat area um, of the webinar, and we can answer those now. But if you have any after the webinar ends, you can also email us. So you can email our general email there, hello@thinksmartbox.com, or if you want to drop me an email personally, that's my address there. So thanks very much indeed for joining me. The next session will show you how to create more grids within your grid set, how to add cells that allow you to jump between the grids, and how to add cells which have other functions such as clear and speak and so on. So hopefully we'll see you at the same time next week. So we'll go over to the questions area now, and if you have any more questions, do drop them in there, and we'll try and answer them as best we can, or you can email us on those addresses there as well. So thank you very much indeed.